everyone, so welcome to our video on lab equipment. We'll be doing a ton of labs here in chemistry, and you need to know what to use when. And I won't always tell you what to do, so it's up to you to figure that out. You'll need your notes, which is your pen and paper, your lab notebook. You're going to make sure that you actually write down all of the lab equipment in the lab notebook. The notes will just be for anything that is basically on the regions. And you'll also need the pictures of the lab equipment that I have given you as well. Alright, so you're going to identify the names and the uses of common lab equipment. So you've already gotten the pictures of all the equipment. They may not be in this order, and that's okay. But I'm just going to run through what everything is, their names, as well as their functions. So make sure you don't mute me. I know you want to, but you can't, because you're going to have to know what all the equipment is, and it's not written here for you. So you just have to listen. Sorry, kiddos. Alright, so first one. This is a graduated cylinder. We have tons of different sizes of graduated cylinders, and they're used to measure volume. Number two is the Bunsen burner. So the Bunsen burner is used to produce a flame or a heat. We'll be using this in a few weeks for our flame test, and you pretty much just hook this up to the gas outlet that we have as well. Number three is a beaker. Now, we use a beaker for mixing, stirring, combining chemicals. We do not use it for measuring, right? So don't use a beaker for measuring. That's what a graduated cylinder is for. So a beaker, again, is just for mixing, stirring, heating things up. If we do heat up some materials in here, make sure they use a certain brand of beaker. Usually they're the Pyrex brand. If I get any other brands, I'll let you know. But Pyrex is usually the good one. That's really heat resistant, so you want to make sure that's what we use for heating. For any of the other ones, you can use any of the other sizes. The size of the beaker is also listed on the beaker itself, so don't just go by the measurements that are there. It's just basically look for the size of them. And they're usually in order in the cabinets. Number four is a volumetric flask. Usually I'll be using these, but I'll tell you guys how to use them. They're used for one particular measurement of liquids. So usually there's like a little sign right there. And we have volumetric flasks as large as 2 liters. They go as small as about 10 milliliters. But they're only used for measuring one type of liquid. So if you need like 150 milliliters or something, use the graduated cylinder. Don't use the volumetric flask. Again, I'll show you usually how to use those. Number five is the Erlenmeyer flask, and the Erlenmeyer flask is pretty much used for mixing, stirring, and I also give you a lot of chemicals in the Erlenmeyer flask, so look for those as well. Number six is a Florence flask. That's also used for heating as well. Of course, use the Pyrex brand for that. Number seven is a burette. This is a long glass tube. You can't really see it in the picture itself, but it's really long. I would say about 2 feet long, in fact, and it's used for something called titrations. This is an acid-base reaction that we'll do in unit 4, actually, so it's going to be a while for this. But this is used for titrations. Pretty much they're used to measure volume. Number 8 is a burette clamp. So pretty much you'll put the burette in this little portion. That's the clamp part. This part goes onto our ring stand, and you can kind of just screw that right on. The ring stands are usually in the cubbies. We use the ring stands a lot, so look for them. Now, on this page, I want to show you guys what's commonly found in the regions and which ones we use a lot in lab. So the regions generally asks for these. Let's see. Erlenmeyer a lot. The burette. Those are usually the major ones for the region. So this should go on your notes. All of this should, of course, go in your lab notebook. The ones we typically use a lot are the ones that are starred, as well as the ring stand from this page. All right, so let's keep moving. Number 10 is a ring clamp. Actually, we're going to a series of different clamps here. So 10 is a ring clamp. 11 is the thermometer clamp. It has a small little opening right in here that you put the thermometer in. And number 12 is the utility clamp. You can put like beakers in there. I'm sorry, not beakers. Whoa, not beakers. Test tubes in there. Anything that's pretty small in there. So those are the clamps. These are all go onto the ring stand as well. You'll notice that there's like a little section right there. So the rectangle that I'm drawing is pretty much just pretend that's the pole for the ring stand. Excuse me. So these go all on the ring stands, and you can use them interchangeably. 13 is a watch glass. It is made of glass. It's about 4 inches in diameter, and we can usually use this for covering beakers, or if we need to light something on fire, we'll just put it into the watch glass. Number 14 is a crucible. These are pretty small, I would say 2 inches in diameter, and they're used for heating up solid substances. Number 15 is an evaporating dish, used for evaporating substances. We can also gently heat this, but a crucible is usually used more so for heating. Number 16 is, actually now going into other tongs and clamps and stuff. So 16 is a beaker tong. Now notice right here that little black section, that's rubberized, so make sure that does not go onto any heat source because that will melt and smell disgusting. But the beaker tongs are used to pretty much transfer beakers, heated beakers from one place to another. They can be a little cumbersome too, so I also want you to use like an oven or a hot mitt with this as well, which I'll show you in a bit. 17 is a crucible tong, so unlike the beaker tongs, the crucible tongs don't have any rubber right there. Pretty much anything that we need to, if we need to pick up small objects that have been heating up, we use the crucible tongs. 18 is a test tube clamp or test tube holder, test tube tongs. They're all kind of used in that. And you just put the test tube right in this little part right there. All right, let's keep moving. Oh, let's actually go through which one's the most popular on the Regents. All right, so in terms of popularity for the Regents, I would say you will see the ring clamp and probably the crucible tongs on there. In terms of what we'll use a lot, will be the ring clamp and crucible tongs, but I would say the beaker tongs are also up there, as well as the test tube clamps. So this is a setup of pretty much the ring stand and a few other little things here. So you've got the ring stand right here, the Bunsen burner. The Bunsen burner also is attached to a gas outlet, which you'll see on all the lab benches. Here we have 2 iron rings or ring clamps, one here, there and there. So on top of this ring clamp, or this, ring clamp, also known of course as iron ring, we have something called a wire gauze, which I'll show you in just a few minutes. So rested on that is a beaker. The reason we have the second iron ring around that beaker is just to support the upper part of the beaker, so it doesn't fall off or anything. So in case we need to heat up a substance using the Bunsen burner, we'll use this setup. Typically I use the hot plates though, but just in case we need Bunsen burners, are there. Alright, so 19 is a 12-well plate, also known as a spot plate. 20 is a 24-well plate. 21 is that wire gauze that I had shown you. This little part right here is made of porcelain. That actually helps diffuse that heat whenever we're heating up a substance. Oh, sorry, 19 and 20, those are for small reactions. 22 is an electronic balance. We use a particular type of brand called OHAL Scout Pro, write that down, because I'm also going to have you eventually learn how to calibrate these so that the way they give the most accurate measurements, and you're going to have to look that up. Number 23 is a weighing paper. These are small little sheets of paper. It kind of feels maybe like I don't say like waxy, kind of a little bit like wax paper. They're used to help you measure out solid substances. Same thing with 24, a weighing boat. This is just made out of plastic. Again, used to help measure out solid substances. Usually I use weighing paper because it's less expensive, less waste as well, and these are one-use things, so you get rid of the weighing paper after you're done. Same thing with the weighing boat. 24 is a volumetric pipette, and it goes into the pipette holder right in here, so this goes into that part right there. This little wheel helps you bring in liquids to help you measure, measure liquids, but pretty much just to suck up some liquids until it gets to a certain point, and that's the measurement right there. So this is used to help measure liquids, but small amounts of liquids, anything under like about 10 milliliters. If it was greater than 10 milliliters, just use a graduated cylinder. 27 is a graduated, volumetric pipettes are made of glass. Graduated pipettes are made of plastic. And we typically use these a lot. They are usually one use. I'll try to show you how to do or use them over and over again. If it's something like just distilled water, we can totally use them again. Try to conserve on these graduated pipettes. So in terms of what's on the Regents, I would say the graduated pipette is probably the most on the Regents, but what we'll use the 12-well plate, the 24-well plate a lot, the balance, the weighing paper, weighing boat, and of course the graduated pipette. Those are the most commonly used equipment. 28 and 29 are kind of the same function. They're used to help you kind of transfer solids. 28 is a spatula, 29 is a scoopula. Yes, the term scupula. Again, help you measure out, or excuse me, help you transfer solids, probably to measure out. 30 is a stirring rod. These are made of glass, and you will be very, very careful with these. They're long, thin glass tubes that will roll off the table very easily, so just be very careful. Again, you're using these to stir, most likely in a beaker while something is heating, or if you just need to stir up some substances. These stirring rods are typically found in your lab equipment boxes, wrapped up in paper towel. Make sure that once you're done using the stirring rods, wash them, of course, really well, dry them, and then put them back in the paper towel so they don't get nicked or damaged or anything like that. These are the most easily breakable items, so just be careful of them. 31 is your test tube tray, so anytime that you're using a test tube, throw it into a tray. Typically, we'll actually just put it into a beaker instead, because we use a lot of small test tubes since we want to conserve on chemicals and not waste anything. We use small test tubes, and we usually put them in a beaker just because it's a little bit easier. These test tube trays tend to be a little bit bigger, so they don't always fit those small test tubes. Like what we have for 32 test tubes. They are used to help you heat up substances or mix substances. They're used for really small chemical reactions. 33 is a rubber stopper. I will typically give these to you, and they all have different measurements. When you're washing these, though, just be careful they don't go down the drain, because they can get stuck very easily, and that would not be good. 34 is a thermometer. I do want you to note, there's a red part here. That is the cover. You take the red part off, and then use this metal part to help you actually measure temperature. So don't put the cover with the thermometer inside of any substance. That's not going to work or help you measure the temperature. Let's see, 35 is the hot plate. Of course, heating up substances, usually a little safer than a Bunsen burner. And 36 are hot mitts. Anytime you're using that hot plate, always have hot mitts with you. Usually we'll use these to transfer the beakers. One quick thing I forgot to mention, 33, the rubber stoppers. They're used to help close up any test tubes or Erlenmeyer flasks, anything that has a small, narrow opening to it. You can also use them to help you mix by inverting. And which ones are most popular in the regions? I wouldn't say typically any of these are very popular in the regions, but in terms of what we use in the lab, pretty much everything. All right, I would say test tube tray, but we typically use beakers for them instead, so that doesn't make the cut. All right, let's keep moving. All right, 37 is a funnel. We use this to help you separate out liquids from solids. We'll also put the filter paper in that funnel to help you do that as well. So filter paper and funnels go hand in hand. So we'll use those a lot. Here's a note on the funnel. So that part right there, if you put it on to the side, it rolls really easily, and those can break. So instead, put these upside down so the funnel opening is on the, this is of course when you're not using it. Put it upside down on the table so the funnel part is on the bottom, on the table itself, so that way it's not rolling around. Is a Buchner funnel, and this of course is used to, again, separate out liquids and solids. We typically don't use this in Regents. We use this more so in AP classes, just to get more of a quantitative measurement. Or if we're trying to, take out a certain amount of solids, this is usually pretty useful. No matter what, we use number 39, the filter paper, for both of them. Number 40 is utility brush or a test tube brush. We have two different sizes. One we use to help clean out beakers. The other one we help to use clean out test tubes. Of course, these are just brushes used for cleaning. And they're typically found in the drying racks for you guys. 41 is the burette brush. These are really long brushes used to clean out the really long burettes. So make sure that you're using the right equipment for that. 42 is a tub of Alkanox soap. This is the soap that we use to clean our glassware. Yes, you will be cleaning all the glassware. And this is actually typically in like a small little Rubbermaid or Ziploc container, and it is usually right next to your lab bench. Use it sparingly, meaning like don't throw it all in there all for once. You need just, I would say, like if you cook 1/8 of a teaspoon, I'll show you what that is in class. Mix that up with some water, and then use that to help you clean all your glassware. 43 is a separatory funnel. Typically use this in AP classes. This helps separate out two liquids from one another. Typically one liquid, think about like oil and water, right? Oil tends to go to the top, separating out from the liquid water. If you wanted to drain out the liquid water, you just open up this little opening right there, and that liquid water goes in, the oil stays in there. Again, typically used in AP classes. So this is what we're going to be using pretty regularly in our classes. The funnel, filter paper, definitely the utility brush and test tube brush. In fact, they get 2 little check marks. And definitely the Alkanox soap. Alright, so none of these, I wouldn't say any of these are really huge on the reagents. So this is just a little setup of filter paper and funnel. If you want to separate any liquids and solids, use a beaker to catch any of the liquid. The filter paper goes into that funnel, and this is actually using a iron ring or ring clamp to help support it as well. Or you can just kind of keep your hand on it. Alright, these are some of the other ones that may or may not have made the picture cut yet, but the first one is a distilled water bottle. And distilled water is pretty much just water that does not have any ions in it. So we typically use this if we want to mix up any solids or create some sort of dissolved substance. Here's a note on this. The distilled water, that opening is really small, so if you need like 100 mils of water, just take this off, unscrew it, and then pour it into a graduated cylinder. Here's the thing though, do not put this thing on the table. The table's dirty. You want to keep the distilled water as clean as possible, so make sure that it, if you're going to unscrew it, hold that the squirt part in your hand and just pour the rest of the distilled water into a graduated cylinder or a beaker, whatever you need. The next one are forceps or tweezers. These are typically found in the box. If you need to move some big solid chunks, this will be helpful. The third thing here is the labeling tape. This is not regular tape. Please do not use this as regular tape. This is just for labeling any substances or on like beakers or something. So pretty much with your pen or pencil, you can label what the substance is, put it on the beaker, that way you don't get it mixed up with anything. Again, please don't use this as regular tape for taping on any questions or anything in your lab notebook. This tape is really expensive and has special uses in the chem lab. The next one's a mortar and pestle. You might see this in a kitchen actually. This helps use to grind up any solids. The Sharpie is also used for help for labeling. Please do not take my Sharpies. If you're going to borrow it, return it back into the boxes. And the last little thing is a dish rack. Well, you need to dry your equipment, so put it upside down into the dish rack. That way it can dry. Myself or my lab tech, or you might be able to go ahead and put it back into the proper cabinet once it's dry and clean. Alright? So, pretty much know the name, function, and location of each piece of equipment. Keep the equipment clean and use the equipment safely. I look forward to being in lab with you guys. Take care.